Europe links new Russia sanctions to outcome of Istanbul talks between Putin and Zelensky. Trump issues ultimatum to Russia and Ukraine on negotiations. And how Zelensky discusses details of Ukraine-Russia talks with Turkey's president. The latest news next. Ukrainian's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that he spoke to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on the 12th of May about the upcoming meeting with Russia in Istanbul, reported by Zelensky on X, Directorate of Communications of the President of Turkey.
I spoke with the President of Turkey, Erdogan, to discuss key details of the meeting in Turkey, which could help bring an end to the war. I am grateful for his support and readiness to facilitate diplomacy at the highest level. We share a common view on the need for a ceasefire.
Zelensky added that the partners must ensure the monitoring of the ceasefire and that he and Erdogan had agreed to continue working together for the sake of peace. Meanwhile, the Turkish president's communications directorate said that Erdogan had called the resumption of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine extremely important. The Turkish leader also stressed the need for a comprehensive ceasefire so that peace talks can begin, adding that we must not lose the open window of opportunity. US President Donald Trump has issued an ultimatum to Ukraine and Russia to hold direct peace talks. Otherwise, the United States may withdraw from the negotiation process, according to Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff.
The president has issued an ultimatum to both sides that without those direct talks, and if they don't occur quickly, then he believes the United States ought to step back from this conflict, whatever that means, and just not be involved.
According to him, this is because the United States did not start the war, and as a mediator, the United States wants to end it. The way that happens is a ceasefire. Everybody stops the violence, and we spend a bit of time together making sure we can deal with the major issues here, and I think that we can, said Witkoff. Trump's representative believes that the main issues that still need to be resolved include Ukrainians' territory, a key nuclear power plant that is currently offline, and Ukrainians' access to important waterways.
I think the major issues here are the regions, the nuclear plant. It's how the Ukrainians are able to use the Dnieper River and get out to the ocean. There are things here that I don't think are going to be difficult to solve if we get the parties to the table. They're talking to each other. We're narrowing issues between them, and then we're coming up with compromises and creative solutions to address each of their concerns.
When asked about the remaining problems, Witkoff explained that there are currently about 5 regions in Ukraine that are contested by the two sides. 2 are under strong Russian control and 3 are under mixed Ukrainian control. He also said that the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is a little bit of a crown jewel because of how much electricity it can produce and is currently a big part of this discussion. According to him, the United States is having informal conversations with both Ukraine and Russia.
So we're in a conversation with both sides informally. We want to be direct and at the bargaining table directly, but we're in a conversation about what you would accept, Russia in some of these areas. Would you retreat back behind certain administrative lines? The same thing with the Ukrainians.
European leaders plan to wait for a possible meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian terrorist Vladimir Putin in Turkey before pushing Washington to tighten sanctions against Russia, Bloomberg reports. Sources familiar with the matter told the Western media outlet about such a connection between new sanctions restrictions against the aggressor country. Bloomberg's interlocutor speaking on condition of anonymity noted that after discussions between US and European officials on May 12th, it became clear that Washington wants to allow room for talks between Russia and Ukraine, which are tentatively scheduled for May 15th before increasing pressure on Putin. If the Russian dictator refuses to meet with Zelensky, or if the Kremlin does not agree to an immediate and unconditional ceasefire during the negotiations in Istanbul, European leaders will urge US President Donald Trump to carry out his threat to impose sanctions against Russia. The US State Department did not comment on this information to Western media. US sanctions on hold. According to Bloomberg, the Trump administration has already prepared options for increasing economic pressure on Russia and is awaiting the green light from the president. Last week, in a post on social media, Trump stated that the US and its partners will impose additional sanctions if the potential truce between Ukraine and Russia is not upheld. Meanwhile, Bloomberg writes that the Trump administration's next steps on its approach to Russia have been unclear over the last 48 hours. Trump's maneuvers on sanctions. Last Saturday, the leaders of the United Kingdom, France, and Germany believed they had secured Trump's agreement on sanctions pressure against Moscow, based on his statements about such restrictions and his support for a plan for a 30-day ceasefire starting May 12th. This involved coordinated US and European sanctions against Russia if Moscow continued attacking Ukraine. However, after Putin actually rejected the 30-day ceasefire with Ukraine, Trump did not announce such a sanctions move. Instead, the American leader called on Zelensky to meet with the head of the Kremlin in Turkey this week. The Ukrainian president agreed. According to Bloomberg, European leaders did not expect such a stance from the head of the White House, which the president of Ukraine nevertheless accepted. European officials told Western journalists that during discussions between US and European representatives on May 12th, the American side did not understand whether it was still ready to impose sanctions on Russia if the attacks continued this week, or what it would do if Putin refuses to meet with Zelensky and continues attacking Ukraine. Pope Leo XIV may visit Ukraine on his first foreign trip. Turkey and Peru are also under consideration, La Repubblica reports. About visit to Ukraine, according to the media outlet, one of the potential countries for the Pope's first visit could be Ukraine, especially following a phone conversation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. During the call, Zelensky extended an invitation to the Pope to make an apostolic visit to Ukraine. This marks the first official invitation for the new pontiff. The media recalls that Pope Francis had also planned to visit Kiev. Now it falls to Pope Leo to decide whether to accept the invitation and when. Nonetheless, the first indication of his geopolitical vision will be seen during the audience he will grant to ambassadors accredited to the Holy See. Visit to Turkey. According to the media, the Pope's first trip abroad might be to Nicaea, Turkey, to mark the anniversary of the Council of 325 AD. However, a diplomatic issue needs to be resolved if Pope Francis, who had previously made a state visit to Turkey, were to accompany the trip. Some aspects might be simplified, particularly due to his health condition. Seeing this, a new pope, it must be decided whether a stop in Ankara would be appropriate in addition to Nicaea. Visit to Peru. Apart from Ukraine and Turkey, Peru is another possible destination for the Pope's first foreign visit. Recently, a Portuguese journalist asked the Pope whether he planned to visit the Fatima Shrine, a place tied to popular devotion and 20th century political history. The Pope replied, speaking in the third person, that Cardinal Prevost had planned to go, but those plans have changed. What a cardinal plans and what the Pope does, he said, are two different things. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.